go.
Ow.
Woo, everybody. Hola, is that what we would say tonight?
Si.
Hola, salute. And welcome everyone to Wino Wednesday, the Garnacha edition.
Vino miércoles? What's Wednesday?
Oh, great. Now you ask.
Is it miércoles?
I don't know. In Italian, it's mercoledì.
Yeah, then it's got to be miércoles.
It's got to be like that. Okay, Perfect. Well, welcome everybody to Wino Wednesday. It feels like it's been a while since we've winoed together, but I'm just so happy to be here with RobbyG.
It's been way too long.
Professor McCheese. It has been. For those of you new, I'm Gina. This is Rob.
Rob, the professor of cheese.
Yeah.
Senor
Queso.
Queso.
Senor Queso. Oh, I love it. Very good.
Well, because we're going to be talking a lot about Spain tonight.
We are. Very much Spain. And we had originally, Rob, also wanted to talk about Portugal. Can I tell you all how difficult it has been to get anything from Portugal these days?
Wow.
Yeah, so definitely it's going to be Spanish heavy tonight, but that's okay because the wine is as well. So, salute everyone to the first sip of Granacha.
Garnacha in Spanish, Granacha in other languages. Like
It's
French.
delicious.
So that's the wine, which we'll talk about in a minute. But first, we should give you a rundown of what's on the plate.
Yes.
And there's 3 cheeses and a couple of meats and other accoutrements. And first, I'll just tell you about the cheeses in the order that we're going to be tasting them, and then feel free to just start munching whenever you want if you haven't done that already. But this little triangle piece here, this is the La Layenda. Okay, and it's got the kind of darker color on the rind. Whoops. Almost dropped it. La Layenda. This piece that looks like this, and it's got a little color to it. That's because it's cow's milk. This is the Tatia. Tatia, number 2. The third one that we're going to discuss on the plate is called Cana de Oveja, and it's this one. So it has a really white paste, and then it has that brie-looking rind on it.
Which you will explain momentarily.
We'll explain
Yes.
all that. There's a couple of meats. The redder circular meat.
Yeah.
We'll show them. That's the chorizo.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the Spanish
Chorizo.
salami, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone has it looks like a prosciutto. It's jamón serrano jamón, which is it's like the Spanish version of a prosciutto.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the accoutrements.
Yes, if I may say. I'm going to tell you a little bit about those because they're also fabulous. First of all, you do not go to Spain without, you know how you go to Mexico, Rob, or to a Mexican restaurant and you get chips and salsa. Or you go to Italian, you might get bread and olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Spain, you sit down at a tapas bar somewhere, you're going to get a bowl of olives. So we put on here some sabores olives. And these are manzanillas. So they're just kind of like the most popular olive in Spain. It's an olive for olive haters. It's kind of a good go-to, yeah.
It's like a
Really
good starter olive.
It's a starter olive, but it's a delicious olive. Here's a factoid about olives, since we're telling you a little bit already. Spain is the world's top producer by far of olives. So most olives you get anywhere in the world are from Spain.
I'll bet you they are right up there with Italy, tops with olive oil as well.
Pretty much. And Italy's second in olives.
And then Greece is probably right there too. All
Probably.
those Mediterranean.
Yes, well, kind of makes sense.
That's why they live forever, by the way.
Exactly, just keep eating your olives.
In the north, the fat they get is butter, but in the Mediterranean, their fat is olive oil.
Olive oil, yeah.
Which is good for you.
Which is a good fat. Yeah, that's right. These, if you've been on some of these adventures before, these are Papara Peppers. They're not super spicy. They're very mild, pleasant peppers, and these come from the Basque region of Spain, which we'll talk about a little bit of the Basque. For a little crunch tonight, everybody, we have Spanish version of corn nuts. These are called Kikos.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just a little lighter than our version of corn nuts, but it's probably the olive oil that they are popped in. So Kikos is what we have there. And then on the sweet side of things, if you've ever been to Spain and you're a fan of manchego, you almost always see it served with membrillo, which is a quince paste. So quince is a fruit, I think it's like a cross between an apple and a pear.
That's a perfect description.
Is that, would you call it that? Yeah, but it's one that you cannot eat raw. Like you would never take a bite of a raw quince, but you can boil it down, reduce it, and make a beautiful quince paste.
Yeah.
Traditionally served with manchego. So of course you got to give it a try and see what you think of the membrillo, quince. And then finally, dessert, everybody. These little stones are known as piedras, which translates to little stones. And what is this beautifully cocoa powder dusted almond that has been dipped in chocolate. So chocolate, dip it in almond, dust it with cocoa powder, you get a pietra. So what's not to love? This is a tapa plate, and this is why Spain is delicious.
All
right?
Spain. Those
Yeah.
little piedras, to me, they look like little tiny potatoes.
They do look like potatoes.
Little
I thought you were going to say
miniature
something
potatoes.
else.
Oh, no, stop.
We were just talking about dogs, so just saying. I thought you might have, but he didn't.
I didn't go there.
Didn't go there. So, any of you that are listening and watching and have a YouTube account, feel free to ask questions as we go in the little chat room, and I'll try to answer them, and we'll try to stump Rob. That's always a good thing.
If I don't know it, I'll make it up.
Yeah, exactly.
You won't even know the difference.
But he'll try to be truthful. Yeah. But first off, and also I'm going to say, thumbs up to this, Rob.
Is it?
I'm liking this.
We're
I'm
happy?
not a big, I don't have a huge knowledge about this varietal, so I'm anxious to learn.
Yeah.
Onward.
I didn't hear a lot about, I didn't know much about the origins of Grenache, and I kind of assumed that it was French, and I know that it grows in a lot of places. So it grows in a number of regions in Spain, Navarra and Aragon. And Aragon is like the region where it's thought to have come from or originate. But in France, it also it grows all over the south. So in Languedoc and Châteauneuf-du-Pape, that's Grenache. But it's also grown in Australia, and in fact, in Australia, it was the number one varietal grown until they started growing Shiraz about 100 years ago.
So very similar.
Which is another varietal that we talked about maybe a month ago or so. It's also grown in the United States, so it's a very flexible, versatile wine. It's used in a lot of blends, like you'll hear GSM, which is Grenache, Syrah,
Mourvedre. Okay.
And the reason it's blended a lot is because it typically doesn't get super tannic or acidic. It's great for blending.
Yeah.
It doesn't overpower other wines when it's
I could see
blended.
this would be the smooth of the trio of grapes. This would be the smoothing element of them, and the super fruity one. This is completely smooth fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so in terms of profile, it does take on a lot of complexity. It can be aged, but generally spicy, like white pepper character. But the other thing is very fruity.
Yeah.
Raspberry, strawberry. And so it's got all of that. The really aged versions get those funny descriptors like tobacco,
leather, tar.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, how is that a good thing? But
it's just like in cheese when we say it's barnyard.
we say it's dirt. It smells like dirt or limestone or stinky, moldy. These are all good words.
They're very, very good words, and together they're fantastic.
But so as I mentioned, the Grenache is what we call it in France and other places, but in Spain it is Garnacha, and the home is a region called Aragon, and Aragon is a huge region in the north, and the most famous city is Zaragoza, and Aragon, the region, is named for a river that goes through the Aragon River, which is a tributary of the Ebro in the north, but it's right next door to Catalonia, which is another, of course, maybe one of the most famous cities and biggest cities, Barcelona, is there. And they have the famous Penedès wine region, which is there as well. And that's where Cava comes from, another wine that we talked about
our Cava Day
on this program.
Mm-hmm.
But Aragon is the home of this guy.
Yes,
and that's where this bottle comes from.
Yeah, I gotta say, I am loving this. This is 100% Garnacha. The winery is called Care, and so and it was named as such because of the town. It was the ancient word for the town that it is today, and the town as it is today. I'm going to try to say it. Okay, Rob, because I was teasing him about the Gruner Veltliner. Now you get to tease me because I think the town is, if I say it right, Carniena.
Good try. No,
Carniena.
I believe it's pronounced Carniena.
Carniena. Carniena.
Because there's an enye.
In the middle end.
Yeah, the middle end. Carniena.
See, I'm struggling with that one so bad. So I'm going to stick with Care.
Yeah. And this is a region that was first protected in the DO. It was first protected in 1932.
Wow.
And we'll talk a lot about how each country has their own system, their governmental system that regulates and controls the name of their agricultural products. In this case, it is called the DO, and that basically just stands for Denominación protected designation of origin.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Very well. You almost said it.
I almost had it. Don't ask me to say it in Spanish. But the Italians have a similar system, and then of course the French system is called AOC, Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée. But it's not just wines that fall under this system. It is also cheeses, olives. Gina was talking about olives. Anything that is a direct reflection of the earth that it comes from. So this is a protected wine, and this particular wine is aged in barrels for about 8 months, so it takes on some of those complex characteristics.
I always feel that when it ages long in French oak like that, you get a little bit of vanilla-y notes to it, and I'm kind of feeling that I get a little bit of that with the fruit, but just really, really nice and super fruit forward. Like this one has absolutely no tannins like in that strength. The Syrah was a little more forceful when we did our Syrah tasting a couple weeks ago. This one is just a lot more smooth. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do. This is dangerous again because this is Wednesday night, and I think this could be a dangerously empty bottle soon.
Not just it's Wino Wednesday.
Wino Wednesday night, yeah.
So I always like to look up famous people from regions.
Oh yeah, who?
Aragon is we've got Francisco Goya, the painter, the famous painter. King Ferdinand. He was the guy that was married to Isabella. So I think they sent Christopher Columbus out.
Yes. Well, thank you.
So that's the wine, and then we have the 3 cheeses to go with the wine. We have there's a couple sheep's milk cheeses, and then the middle one, the Tatia, is cow's milk. So we'll start with the La Layenda, which is a sheep's milk cheese.
Okay. La Layenda. So there are tons of sheep in Spain.
Yeah.
The climate is it's suitable for sheep because it is can be very stony, arid kind of place. So that's why the Basque in that area always has so many sheep. They're known for that, and they've cultivated them for literally thousands of years. So that's why, would you say that's kind of one of the top sheep producing regions in the world? Sheep cheeses?
So most of what you'll find in Spain, because of the terrain, because of the temperature, climate, it is sheep and goat's milk cheeses. The only ones that I ever see are way in the north. In fact, the region which is north of Portugal on the western side of the country is called Galicia, and that's where the Tatia is from, and that's cow's milk.
That's the only time you see a cow.
We'll talk about that one in a minute, but the La Leyenda, and that means the legend in Spanish, is from a region called La Mancha.
La Mancha.
And
the man of La Mancha.
Please.
Anyone like it?
She was doing right before we started. She was singing that too.
That was before the wine.
Before the wine.
To dream the impossible dream.
So we know the man from La Mancha, Don Quixote.
Yes.
One of the more famous things that this region has given us. Of course, but you were just talking about the terrain, how it's arid. The word Al Mancha is an Arab word, and it actually means the dry land. And if anyone has read that, 600-page tome, Don Quixote?
I have not.
I read
sure you did.
a long time ago, just to say I did. But it was it's actually a pretty funny and interesting book. But they have all these windmills in the region, and so it's one way to generate power. But Don Quixote, as he rode around on his horse with his buddy Sancho Panza, they were like dehydrated, and they sort of started going crazy as they're cruising around the region, and they started kind of hallucinating, and they thought the windmills were like monsters that were chasing them and kind of out to get them.
Are we sure they didn't have too much of something?
But they also carried around on the back of their horse in the book it describes a hard ewe's milk cheese, which would have been something very similar to our Manchego.
Manchego, yeah.
And the La Leyenda is in that family. It's an aged sheep's milk cheese. This one is probably a year or so.
Yeah, I wouldn't say more. It's a lot younger than I expected today. You can tell by the softness of it. But yeah, a little less pronounced
Yeah.
as Manchego to me. A little more subtle.
And as we mentioned, they have all these rules and regulations for cheeses, wines, and other agricultural products to take on their name. And for La Mancha to take on the name La Mancha, it has to, of course, come from La Mancha. It has to be made with the milk of a breed called La Mancha sheep, and it has to be aged a minimum of 3 months. And all these things have to happen. Well, they this one is not a Manchego, but it's in the Manchego family. They do some other kind of fun things to make this cheese different. So they soak it in a brandy or sherry before they make the cheese, and then they cover it with olive oil and herbs. So it's sort of like Manchego with a little twist.
With a little twist, yeah. And today I'm not getting a lot of the herbs because I think what's happening now, and I don't know if it's because of the pandemic, everything happening, but cheeses are coming to us packaged a lot different than they used to, and they're taking off like some of the leaves that used to be on things, some of the coatings that used to be on things. So this one, I think they've scraped it off and then put that, the cheese protective coating on the outside.
That's actually a really good point. So we have a lot of the traditional cheeses. They are made with they'll have like herbs or bulrush or some kind of vegetation on the rind, and it's harder for us to get those. Well, we're not importing, but the people who import, it's harder for them to get it into the country because of E. coli and things like this and everything.
Customs.
So a lot of times what they'll do is make a couple versions. They'll make a raw traditional version. When I say raw, I mean not pasteurized version that stays where they are, and then they'll make another version to get through our FDA and all our regulators.
Yeah,
here.
It's really something. So this one to me today is really, really mild, but pleasant. So this is a good starter one, Rob.
Yeah.
And with the wine, hand in hand, complementary, which we've talked about before.
So it doesn't take too much away from it.
No, it doesn't take her out. It just is there. It's just yummy.
Yeah. But Layenda, if you're ever looking for, we put cheeses in categories, and sometimes if it doesn't fit into a category, then we'll just look at the milk type, where it comes from, in the age, and we were thinking like Manchego is almost like its own sort of category. It's an aged sheep's milk cheese, and Manchego would be most similar to an aged like a pecorino from Italy.
Yeah, I think their flavor profiles are really similar.
Yeah. So La Layenda Manchego, think of a pecorino, but just from Spain.
Yeah, that's a good way for sure. And Manchego, that's the most popular export of Spain is Manchego cheese, kind of their most popular food. As also is, we might as well jump to their other most popular food, a little bite of the Serrano. Serrano jamon. Jamon is ham. Serrano is the Spanish word for Sierra. Because in the traditional days, it used to be made high in the Sierras, like high in the mountains. Now, of course, they make it all over Spain, but it is, again, you talked about Manchego being Spain's version of pecorino. Serrano jamon is Spain's version of prosciutto. Yeah. And I think it's less oily, I want to say, or sweet. I think prosciutto's sweeter than Serrano. I don't know what you think.
So to me, it has a more savory. It's more gamey. It's a little darker, whereas like prosciutto de Parma, prosciutto San Daniele, the Italian ones, they are sweeter and pinker. This has a little bit more gaminess to it.
Yeah, which I love.
And but this is the ham that if anyone has been to Spain, no matter where you are, any of the big cities, go into a cafe and you look around.
The delis.
And yes, you just see legs of pigs hanging everywhere.
Yes.
Just in the open. They're not in a refrigerator or climate controlled area. They're just out in the open, dripping fat onto the floor.
It's so good. I remember in Barcelona, and it's 100 degrees. Barcelona's a hot climate. And going, like you said, into the deli, and there must have been 50 legs hanging, but instead of dripping on the floor, they had little cups underneath
nice.
each. Like there was just like the little the cones you get snow cones in when you were a kid. There were little cones like that. I bet you they caught that oil and used it for food. I'm 100% they didn't just like chuck that away and throw it away. But there it is, just catching the drippings, and it's awesome. And you'll also see often that they cut it with a knife. You'll see the leg in a stand, in a Serrano jamon stand, and then they're just making that beautiful thin slice with a knife. It's really amazing. It's a nice production. It's a good show.
Yeah, and like
We're
the
delicious.
real deal. I mean, you will see like the little hoof attached and like
Yeah,
hair
oh yeah,
and
no,
stuff.
it's,
It is
it's rough. It's
it
rustic.
is all
rustic.
It is there for you to see. But I slipped one time. I'm kidding.
Whatever. I mean, one of them's gonna kick you one of these days.
Yeah. But we should also mention quickly too the other the pata negra. Is it called pata negra? The black.
The black pig.
Yes.
Yes. Correct. Mm-hmm.
That it
Blackfoot.
eats
Pata negra.
100% acorns towards the end of its life, and they fatten it up. And
Yes.
that one is the really famous one that sells for like $150 a pound or something.
Yes. So, Serrano jamon typically comes from a black-footed pig, the pata negra. Okay. But the Serrano jamon Iberico is
That's
from
what I'm
the
thinking.
very specific black pig.
Uh-huh.
And then the Iberico, this is the exclusive one, is the Iberico Bellota. When you see that, that is $100 plus a pound of
So
meat.
like one slice is probably $5.
It's like $2. Yeah, I think so. We were because Del Mar is the one shop that does carry that. If anybody's dying to try a little of the Iberico Bellota. Bellota is the key word because those pigs graze only on acorns.
Yeah.
And you can taste it in the meat. I mean, 100% you can totally taste it.
And that's where
yeah.
you get even a piece of fat like this, like the end of it has the fat on it, and it just melts on your mouth. I mean, completely melts in your mouth. It's amazing.
It is amazing. It's like lard, but delicious, and I don't know how to describe it. Get the chance to try Iberico Bellota because this chorizo, you guys, is made with Iberico ham, but it's not the Bellota.
Ooh.
Okay,
Ooh.
but yeah, interesting to note.
And you know, I often say this, but you are what you eat, and so you know the flavors of milk are affected by geographic location because it has to do with the diet of the animals and what grows in that region in that place. You know, same thing with wine. It's where the grapes come from, but with meat, it's where the animal lives and grazes
And what they eat.
and what they eat. 100%.
100%, that makes the difference. It's like the prosciutto pigs eat the whey from the cheese making process, which is sweet. It's a sweeter product. I think that's what makes their meat sweeter.
Yeah.
You know, it's just different.
And Gina's referring to in Parma, where they make Parmigiano Reggiano, they make the cheese with the cheese curd. They collect all the whey, which is the liquid from the process, and they have pigs in the back of all those facilities that live on whey. They eat whey, get all fat, and they become
Fat and
prosciutto.
happy for a while.
But it's a whole cycle, and nothing
Yeah.
goes to waste. Everything's
No,
used, and that's
so cool.
And the thing is, like, for it to take on that name, prosciutto di Parma, they have to eat a certain amount of or percentage of that way, and so it all ties in.
A couple questions, Rob, and things that noted. Jason, who's our big friend.
Jason.
Hello.
What up?
Detected a little hint of smokiness in that
yeah.
Serrano jamon, and they don't specifically smoke it. Like, it's not a smoked meat, but again, it comes down to just the natural gaminess of that pig. Has that hint of earth and smoke. I think dirt. It's just an earth.
And that makes me also think of some of the really aged Goudas that we serve. Sometimes people think of it as smoked. It's more of like a roasted, almost roasted flavor.
That's a good word. I think so too. Roasted.
It just has like it's not smoked, but you get smokiness.
Yeah.
It's like a roasty, toasty, cooked flavor.
Roasty toasty.
Roasty, toasty, cooked.
That should be a sandwich. A roasty toasty.
No, yes.
Duly noted. And then a Jackie noticed, and you kind of, hello Jackie, ham museums, because it's just like the prosciutto. You've gone to some of those.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where you just see how they make it, and those legs are hanging.
Has Jackie been to some of those?
I don't know. She says ham museums everywhere. So
Yeah.
Jackie, yes, must have been there. So
Yeah, they're
I've seen
pretty.
this.
So we've talked about this on these programs as well. But we take groups now to we've gone to Italy for all of the trips so far, and we have visited these places where they make and age the meats. And we've been to some of the places where they have the really fancy meats, like we were talking about, and they've had names on the meats because they've been reserved for famous people, kings, queens. Paul Allen had one at one
Anthony
of the places.
Bourdain
Yeah,
had one.
yeah.
Yes, the culatello. That's the again the equivalent to the Iberico is that culatello. in Italy.
That's the
Yeah.
equivalent in central Italy.
Yes.
It's called culatello.
Yeah, right?
Yummy
it's all
stuff.
good. Yummy stuff. Yeah, nothing to waste and all delicious.
But try the La Leyenda if you want to do a really traditional pairing, also with the quince paste, because that's
which I didn't. But again, the quince paste is just is the jelly, definitely tough Jello shot.
Yeah. You can
substance.
just slice a thin piece of it and put it right onto the cheese and have a bite.
That'd be classic. Mm-hmm.
And that gives a nice contrast. It's a balancing. It's a salty sweet.
Jackie said she saw the ham museums in Barcelona and Madrid.
Yeah.
So it's just so cool.
Yeah, they're everywhere, and I wish we can do that here, but we if you see it in the States, that they're probably fake dummy hams.
We could do a whole museum of dummy hams.
Well, the other thing too that I had to get used to when I was in Spain was their sandwiches are a little different. Their ham and cheese. Yeah. It's like crunchy. It's that dry crunchy bread with a dry piece of cheese and then just a thin slice of cured meat on there. So it's very different from
our thick dripping.
Yeah. Than our hoagie sandwiches with like
exactly.
mayonnaise and
who knows
mustard
everything else on it. Yes, it's very simple. Yeah. Very simple but elegant and delicious.
Different take on it.
Yeah, different take.
All right, so should we go to the next cheese?
Yes,
or queso, I mean. Mm-hmm. Okay, the next one is going to be the Tatia. And again, it is this guy. Our piece is sweating. It's been sitting out. That's a good thing. Have a little bite.
Tatia. Oh, yeah. So tell us about Tatia. Where did the name come from?
Yeah, good question. Well, it comes from a region called Galicia. And Galicia is known for a few things. I mean, the people there are Gallegan, but Galicia it's known for there was a place that people would go to for pilgrimage called Santiago de Compostela, and
super famous.
It's very famous. And pilgrims would go from all across Europe, and they would pass through Spain. And as they came from Italy and France and other parts of Spain, they passed through and they passed on a lot of their techniques for making wine and cheese and other things, even just stories. It was an exchange of information and ideas, and that's how a lot of things traveled. And that's why Rioja became a really famous wine region, is because people came from Bordeaux and Burgundy and taught a lot of what they knew. And they even call Rioja the Bordeaux of Spain, because that's where they learned about aging in oak barrels and stuff. But people would pass through, pilgrims, to go to Santiago de Compostela. And there are a lot of cheeses from the region. This is where you find the cow's milk cheeses, and this one is cow's milk. I wish we had a show and tell piece for you, because the name itself means small breast, or little titty, basically.
He said it, I didn't.
Sorry,
but they're not
earmuffs.
that little.
They're not that little, and they're even topped with a little nipple.
They are. The shape of them is so great. You can't mistake a Tatia when you see a Tatia. Yeah.
I said before. I said, "Oh, I wish we had a Tatia here," and Gina said, "I wish we had two Tatias here." But I don't know what shop these came out of. Was it Del Mar?
Yeah. So they've got some. Mm-hmm.
But they're shaped like a breast, and they are
so random.
Yeah, just a rare cow's milk cheese. What else can we say about Galicia? They famous people from Galicia. They're known for their dictators.
Really?
So Francisco Franco is from Galicia, but the other ones are the Castro boys.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Cuban Castros. So
from
Fidel
Galicia.
and of course Raul are both from
Galician.
Galicia.
Galicians.
It's where the empanada comes from.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love the empanada.
There's another cheese from there called San Simon, which is very similar to a Tatia.
Kind of a smoked
except
version.
It's smoked.
Yeah.
It's a smoked version.
I can tell you that Tatia, and if you're from Barcelona, you say Tatia with a THE, is awesome with the olive. Try that.
And much like a lot of European countries, Western European countries, they are the regions they're a lot older than the countries themselves. So they have their own language, they have their own culture, they have and culture of course ties into all their food and wine. When Francisco Franco was the leader of the country, he kind of tried to do away with all the regionalism, and he made their capital right in the middle. That's why Madrid is in the middle of the country.
Okay.
And
to pull it together, middle.
And so they discouraged at the time all the different regions practicing their own culture because they wanted it to be one Spanish culture. In Catalonia, where Barcelona is, they have the Catalonian language, and they very much their own culture. Yeah. The Basque region has their own culture, but Galicia has their own culture and history and food traditions as well. And it wasn't until Franco was ousted, in the late 70s or around 1980, that a lot of things sort of came back, and a lot of cheeses that were just made in people's homes for a long time, for decades, came back. And
introduced. Okay.
And I guarantee you a lot of things went extinct during that time.
So we could bring it back, move there and bring it back. That'd be good. Awesome. Well, that one's really mild. I don't know what you think today.
It is mild.
It is. It's just mild. To me, again, like a good appetizer cheese that just gives me, it wets the whistle, makes me want more.
There's a lot of depth to it. It has a little bit of a sweetness and a nuttiness to me. But
compared to the other one.
I would play around with this one. Try this is a good canvas, so try it
again
with,
the membrillo.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love the olive.
And you can go any direction. You can go crunch, you can go savory, you can go sweet. This probably would melt nicely.
Very nicely. I like it with the Kiko. Actually, I like that better than the olive with it. I don't know, but I like it all with it.
Can't go wrong.
It's our little tapa party.
I know I've been to some of the tapas bars in Spain, and some of the ones that I went to, they would charge by the toothpick.
I love that.
So, yeah, but I would just go crazy because you're not paying attention, and then all of a sudden I've got like 30 toothpicks. Like, that'll be $300, please. I'm like, oh boy.
But so good.
Yeah.
We need to do that here. Can we do that here someday?
No.
Toothpicks?
Why not?
Tapas by toothpick.
Shall we?
Selling our toasty roasties or whatever.
Roasty and toasty.
Onward.
There's a couple. I actually wrote down a couple of books here about Galicia. I forgot that Galicia. I've heard it pronounced Galicia as well, but I say Galicia. And these are kind of obscure books, but one I read was called Everything But the Squeal, and it's about a guy who goes to Spain, and I think it was Galicia specifically. I know part of it takes place there, but he basically eats. He has like a diagram of a pig, and his goal is to eat every part of a pig. And so he like blots out as he eats them his way through that region.
Oh wow, okay.
Because everything but the squeal. I've heard the term everything but the oink as well. Nothing goes to waste. I mean, I'm talking
the snout, the ears, everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
everything, every little bit.
Nice, I like it. Everything but the squeal.
There's another one that is called Sense of Direction, and it's by a guy named Gideon Lewis Krause, and it was he did the pilgrimage, the one that was taken more frequently, of course, in the Middle Ages, but he took it in the 2000s, and he walked it, and it was just his experience, and it was like kind of a coming of age book, it was good. I recommend it. That's why I wrote it down.
All about just walking, eating, drinking, walking some more, eating, drinking some more.
In Spain.
In Spain.
And kind of finding yourself in this crazy time when there's so much technology and he just takes a nice long walk.
That'd be nice. I like it.
I think it would be nice.
I like it. Let's do it. Next tour voyage.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those, the first trip we did, there was so much food and so much wine that the next year we actually had to add in a bunch of walking and exercise.
Yes, and didn't you have to give warnings? Like
we
people
did.
warn me that we're gonna have this much food because I can't take it. And wine. I know. Wait. Whoa.
Exactly. We had to have like
Italy.
Like a scale of like a numbered scale of like how much food you were going to get on a certain day just to warn people.
That's not bad. Mark, we have a Mark on the line. Another book, The Telling Room. Do you know that one?
The Telling Room.
Excellent.
Yeah, the Telling Room is it's Michael Petrati or something like that. He was actually featured on one of Bourdain's shows, and that actually it's so that one is the Telling Room was a storytelling room. That's the kind of the basis of the book, and the way that book starts. I'm gonna show my book nerdery here.
He is a book nerd.
But there was a guy who was in like Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he saw a cheese in that was in a cheese shop counter, and I think it was a really, really expensive cheese, and maybe he couldn't afford it or something, but he jotted down what the cheese was, and he went home and he started researching it, and he found where the cheese came from, and it was a sheep's milk cheese. It might even have been from La Mancha, actually.
Could have been Manchego, you think?
Yeah, and it's something similar to Manchego. And he went back and he traced like where the cheese was made and who made it. It was, they didn't make the cheese anymore by the time he went and researched, and he actually went to the place where it came from, and he got the whole background on the cheese itself, and the Telling Room was like the room where they actually aged the cheese was also the room where the family would sit and tell stories. And that's where like the name comes from.
And the term and the thought.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. The Telling Room. Rob, tell us once again, Carol asked the name of the books you mentioned.
Oh, one is called Sense of Direction, and it's by Gideon Lewis Krause. The other one's called Everything But the Squeal, and the author is John Barlow.
Okay. I kind of would like to do that adventure.
Oh, you know what?
The squeal.
I wrote down under Castilla and La Mancha for my people from there, El Greco, the painter, but I actually wrote down The Telling Room.
Michael, oh my gosh, that's so weird.
Michael Paterniti is his name.
Nitti, okay.
And it is a really, really good book.
Mark is impressed that you knew the name of this. And did you have it?
Michael Paterniti, and
he's a book nerd, Mark.
Little background.
He's good.
I used to work for a bookstore in La Jolla called Warwick's, which is the oldest family-owned and operated bookstore in the country.
So cool.
And we used to do a cheese tasting there like once a month. That's years ago. And I was hired one time to do a cheese talk at a bookstore in Los Angeles with Random House, and this was a Random House book. And so I talked about this to a group, like 10. It was like when it came out, so that's why I knew about it.
Okay, well there you go. But wow,
randomness.
Randomness, yes, I love when that happens.
Wait, and I didn't. That was no pun either with Random House.
Ow, but bump.
But it's a good book, and just so you know, you can probably find on YouTube. This guy, the author, he did one of the Anthony Bourdain shows, I think on CNN.
Oh, really?
When Bourdain was doing the shows on CNN.
Yes,
and it takes place in Spain.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember what it was called.
I can't either. No reservations.
It was after that.
It was after that, so okay. Confidential, something. I don't know. Anyway.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Rob, I had a theory. I thought if I would have myself a smaller glass, I would drink less. And the theory doesn't work.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Studies, yeah. So I thought if I take my big red wine glass, I would just fill it and drink the whole thing. But now I'm just drinking 5 little wine glasses. It's not helping. So anyway,
you're drinking little wine tapas.
My little wine tapas is going with the theme of the Spanish night. Okay, very good then. Now I'm happy. Okay, onward.
All right. So what do we have next? We have Cana de Oveja.
Cana de Oveja. I love this cheese.
Yeah.
Love.
And so Cana de Oveja is the one that it looks like a goat cheese.
Yeah.
It is this one. And it has a natural rind. It has that white bloomy rind, and it ripens from the outside in. So you'll see the kind of the change in color. It gets a little bit more straw yellowy colored, and then that the chalky center of white.
Love that.
100% sheep's milk. Mm-hmm. This is from a region called Mercia. Mercia is south on the Mediterranean, so south of Barcelona, Catalonia, and this region has a lot of great cheeses. There's also one called Cana de Cabra,
which is
that's the goat's milk version of this. Oveja, by the way, means sheep. So anytime you see something with the name Oveja, it just means it is sheep's milk. They have another one called Capricho Cabra from there, which
Goat milk.
it's a fresh, really young goat's milk cheese with herbs.
Love it.
And there's a really famous breed of goat called the Mercia Goat, and they are, as far as I know, they produce the most milk of any goat breed, and so they're a really good breed for
Quality.
producing cheese.
Okay, if you ever hear us say the term that a cheese is fudgy, this one almost sticks my mouth together. Do you get
wow.
that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is in a good way, like gluey. I mean, but I like it. I think fudgy. Fudgy is the word I would use.
Yeah.
But wow, that one coats my mouth, sticks together. I did the whole bite. It's fun, you guys, to taste each part if you can. The creamy interior that's chalky crumbly. If you can get a little of the gold band on the outside, and then the bloomy rind on the outside. And you do them all together, of course, it's spectacular. And there's something mineral quality to it as well.
It had
But definitely texture fudgy.
Yeah, very fudgy. Has I got a tanginess. I got a little bit of sweetness on that, and that's probably because of the richness or the fattiness of the sheep's milk, more so than goat's milk is a little bit less fatty, so it has more of a sour, not quite as rich of a flavor
almost
as the
acidic,
sheep's milk.
I guess.
Yeah, more a little bit more acidic, or even citrusy. You can kind of get from that.
This one changes the wine, dries the wine out to me.
Really?
Yeah, it does. Not in a bad way, but it definitely changes it. The other two blended with the wine, but this one, it almost made it that dry, tannic, like it took something out of my taste buds.
Does it
but
make
it's still
you,
good. It still has a good flavor.
Does it make you more thirsty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything does. I cannot find one that doesn't. But I wouldn't eat it because
it's funny. Like that's what they say about a lot of cheeses and good pairings. They just the bite. It's satisfying, but at the same time, it also leaves you wanting another bite and another sip.
That is the aperitif, the etapa, the appetizer.
Yeah.
You want more. And that's so good. Rob, this would be very, very good, you guys, with this chorizo, which we touched on because it's made with Iberico. This is chorizo Iberico, the black pig, the Iberico. Chorizo is traditional Spanish filled with paprika, which is the Espelette pepper, which is popular in the Basque region and grown in the Basque region.
Yeah, it's very, very known.
So good. It's very oily. The cheese is fudgy, the meat is oily, but together they're amazing.
There's lots of different chorizos, everything from, they all call them chorizo blanco to chorizo vela for the spicy one. And so the blanco one is usually the one that is not quite as spiced, not so much of the paprika or the pepper in them. But I'm going to have one of these chocolate-covered almonds.
That's dessert, man. Oh, go for it. What about with the Cana de Oveja? That'll be yummy. I don't know. And we need to coat something like that. Like, we made truffles before, chocolate truffles with cheese inside. But I kind of want to make the cheese the star on the outside somehow, Rob. We got to experiment with something one of these days. I don't know.
Your recommendation, the Cana de Oveja with the chocolate-covered almond,
Good?
was fabulous.
Oh. Because the cream, it'd be like putting cream on your chocolate. It's like whipped cream.
It kind of brings out that sweetness that I was talking about in the cheese. It was really
And
good.
like you said, sheep milk traditionally is sweeter. Anytime you get it, you get the oiliness and the sweetness that is inherent in that sheep milk. Yeah.
The higher the fat, the sweeter it's going to taste. So that's
Why the goat milks are not sweet.
yeah. Exactly. And so, one of the milk types that is really high in fat is buffalo milk. And if anyone has been able to taste a buffalo mozzarella, which is the traditional type of mozzarella, versus a cow's milk mozzarella, which is really the more common type that you'll find, it's just a whole nother level of
sweetness.
Not just flavor, but texture. It's more of a gentle texture.
You went to the buffalo farm in Campania, right?
Yeah, we went to a buffalo farm in Campania, which is that's where the Italian DOP, that's what it's called there. It defines mozzarella as having to come from Campania. We also went to a buffalo farm in Tuscany with one of our groups.
Nice.
One year, but all these places that make cheese, of course they make a lot of other stuff as well. So they'll make soap. This one of the places I went to made buffalo mozzarella, but they also made gelato. It was so incredible, and they also had a bunch of
Out of the way? Did they do, or did you just do the milk too?
No,
it
was milk.
like the milk. Okay.
It was from the milk. But then they made cheeses from the whey. Usually they'll make ricotta. That just means recook. So they'll make that from whey. And then all these cheesemakers that we visit, they have like their main cheese that they sell to everyone. But then they also have all their little experiments in the back too that they're playing around with. So they had cheeses hanging from rafters and all kinds of crazy weird shapes, and basically
bury it, coat it in something, soak it in something.
Exactly.
It's like a canvas to do with what you will.
We don't ever talk about provolone, but provolone is like an aged mozzarella, basically.
When you're in Italy, it's so it's so different than the sliced deli provolone.
So
here.
different.
Yeah.
And but it's what they do. It's called pasta filata, and that means that they heat the curd up, and it makes it really stretchy, and they can kind of pull it around into different forms. And for mozzarella, they like pull it into a little ball, and they cut it from the rest of the curd, and they put it in basically room temperature water, and then it firms up. And,
to hold its shape.
Yeah, it holds its shape. But provolone is like it's a bigger form of mozzarella.
Like huge.
Huge.
Some of them could be 200 pounds.
Yeah, they're ginormous.
Really crazy.
And they're made all over the South.
Yeah.
And they're just mozzarella aged for longer, and they get really, really sharp, and they have a lot of acidity to them.
Yeah.
And
remember Sicily?
Yeah.
Their version's kind of caciocavallo.
Mm-hmm.
Not as big or whatever, but same concept.
If anyone has ever heard of a cheese called caciocavallo, that means cheese on horseback, and it just refers to when they take basically two bags or like a cheesecloth, and they hang it over a rafter, but in the old days they used to hang it over their donkeys or horses. Cheese on horseback, and they would be off on whatever their pilgrimage or whatever they were doing.
Yeah, and the cheese just hangs out.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And so that's what it's called. Although they don't have like a horse sitting there while they're aging it the whole time. They'll age it over a rafter.
They'll leave the horse sitting there for 3 years.
It takes on an interesting shape, but it's basic. If you like caciocavallo, then it's the same thing as provolone. It's just a different name. And provolone is really prevalent all over the South. So there's 5 or 6 regions plus the islands, Sicily and Sardinia, where you can find those. How did we get on to caciocavallo and provolone from Spain?
I'm not sure. I've lost my train of thought. Remember that movie, The Train of Thought? The train has left the station. But a reminder, the peppers are called paparas. I love them. Rob, try it with the Cana de Oveja.
If you insist.
You know why? Because it's still coating my tongue. I can almost not talk for 30 seconds after I eat it because it just is so fudgy. But then you put the pickly pepper with it. I think it's really good with the Cana de Oveja. Personally, Papara Peppers, from the Basque region of Spain. Not hot spicy, but spicy again. Nothing's really hot spicy. Chorizo too. Isn't like you're gonna knock your socks off hot, but it's got a kick. Yeah.
Well, so I tried the Cana de Oveja with the chocolate-covered almond, and then with the pepper.
Yeah, what'd you think? Both.
Well, it's great, but it's a good example of how you can go completely different directions.
Yeah, this is cream.
With flavors, and so it's just so fun.
I gotta get one of these little potatoes before you eat them all.
Well, she knows me too well.
I do. In fact, congratulations to Rob. He just had his wedding anniversary yesterday.
Thank you.
We had a meeting. He had one dinner at meeting, and then another dinner at dinner with his lovely wife.
Yeah, it was a rough day.
It's rough. But now I got my fill in. I sneak in. You'll notice as he's talking that I can keep eating because otherwise it's gone. I might not see any of it. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm a good eater.
Yeah, but Spain is underrated. There are so many good cheeses and foods. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
From Spain. We've just touched on a few of our favorites.
One of the things that we wanted to remember to touch on is, and we talked about Portugal at the very beginning as well.
Oh yes, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted more Portuguese.
It's hard to get stuff right now, but things to look for and make a note of, and we'll continue to look for them, and we'll do this, in the future. There's a cheese from the Azores called São Jorge. Means St. George.
The most famous one.
Yeah, it's our patron saint. This is Portuguese, of course. So the Azores are Portugal, and islands way out there. But it's a cow's milk cheese, and it's a really big. It's based on cheddar, really, but it's hard to get. There is a copycat version from Northern California called St. George.
Yes.
But
Matos.
Matos.
Matos, sorry, not Mateo.
In they're like in Santa Rosa. And then, but the type of cheese that they're really known for in Portugal, and also there's a region in Spain called Extremadura, which borders Portugal, so it's on the southwestern side of the country. But they make these little rounds that they're coagulated with thistle rennet, which is very strange. Maybe I should explain more of what that even means.
Yes.
But when the milk comes into the creamery, the first thing the cheesemaker does is they coagulate that milk. And that means that they turn it into solids and liquids. And what they put in something called rennet. And rennet is it's from an animal. It's an animal product. And the biological, or the function of it is that it turns milk into curds and solids and liquids. And so they someone discovered in this part of Spain and in Portugal that you can perform that same function without animal rennet. You can use cardoon thistle juice. Like if you squeeze the juice from the cardoon
which is
thistle
that
flower,
milky looking juice.
And those are beautiful flowers, by the way.
They are.
They're gorgeous.
Thistle, they're purple. You've all seen a thistle.
Google thistle.
Yeah, you'll go. Oh, I know
if you haven't seen. But they would squeeze the juice out of it, and that would coagulate the milk. But
they would milk the plants.
They would. How do you milk a?
How do you milk a thistle?
So, sorry, we digress. But anyway, it would solidify the milk, and it gives it like this kind of green flavor, this vegetal artichoke flavor.
Real bitter artichoke to me.
Yeah. And it has
distinctive
and a very unique texture as well. I don't even know how to describe it.
I don't either. We're going to do all Portugal at some point because it has to be tasted to understand.
If there's a handful of them that we get from time to time, but again, they are rare. When I was in Portugal, like in Lisbon, oftentimes if you go out to a restaurant there, they will put the cheese on your table wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, that's true, right? Yeah.
And I learned this: if you unwrap it and eat it, and it's on your bill.
Well, yeah.
Well, I didn't ask for it. How you can't put it on my table and not expect me to eat it? I thought it was complimentary. I mean,
well, you put it on the table. You're buying whatever gets put on your table.
Fine, but I didn't ask for it. But it was good.
But I ate it.
Yeah, I did eat it. But it's they're just weird.
Yeah, they're very weird, and it's a fun experiment in weirdness. But we will do, because Portugal wines, I mean, they are fabulous. There will be a Wino Wednesday when we can get all the Portuguese. We focus on Portugal because there are accoutrements too. A lot of seafood stuff, sardines we can get into, clams and all this kind of stuff.
True.
Oh my God, and their little cheese puffs. We'll get into that too. But super distinctive, and it to me, honestly, when you taste it, you know that's a Portuguese cheese. Like that's their calling card of cheese making is using that thistle rennet.
There's one, to give you a couple names. Serra de Estrella is one.
Torta de Caçar.
That's from Extremadura, so that's from Spain.
Oh shit.
No, but I mean that's the same.
Close.
It's the same style.
It's the same style. Yeah.
Serra de Estrella is a big one, which comes from the north. And the north, so Lisbon is like more in the south, I believe.
Yep, it is. Porto and everything hits up.
And Porto, and of course, Porto known for port wine. So that's easily the most famous wine from there is their port wine, their dessert wine.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, but all good. George is loving the accoutrements tonight, and I do too. I gotta say, I could just chow down on a plate of accoutrements.
I'll tell you, Spain does accoutrements very well.
Well, it goes back to that's all tapa food.
Yep.
And think of that. I mean, and they're grazing all the time. Nobody eats at 5. They're grazing at 5. They have their dinner at 10. But what is dinner? A bunch of tapas and a bunch of nibblers and a bunch of wine.
Well, everybody is sleeping from like noon to 4.
That's true. Why can't we introduce that here?
I'm going to tell you funny. First time I was there, I remember I was on my clock, because I had just gotten there, and it was noon, and I was ready for lunch, and I went out to go find lunch. I could not find
like a crazy
food.
Man.
Like I was a crazy man. I'll come back in 4 hours. Well, I can't wait 4 hours to eat, and then of course dinner is at like midnight,
9 or 10, like nothing before that. Yeah. You're a crazy man again.
Yeah. I'm an old man. I eat at 6 o'clock.
You eat at 6 and then you're bed at 7. It's almost 6 o'clock.
That's my bedtime, Gina. Come on.
Yeah, too good. But Spain, underrated food-wise.
Yeah.
So hopefully this is a good introduction to some Spanish things. We want to do something different than, which we know Manchego, most famous, but kind of some different.
Yeah, other good reading. Hemingway is great reading for Spain.
Which books?
Which books? For Whom the Bell Tolls is a Spanish Civil War.
Yeah.
He's got like Death in the Afternoon is about the bull thing.
Oh my gosh, the bull. What about Running with the Bulls?
Bullfighting.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Would you do that? I would do that.
There's the Spain has so much cool history and so much. It's so fascinating.
Spain and Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the south, because the Moors came up from northern Africa, and I mean you have the southern Spain, and then you have Gibraltar, and then on the other side is Morocco and all the northern. And the Moors came up, and all of those they're like fortresses, but also cathedrals. They were also synagogues and mosques.
What a blend.
Alcazar, which is in Sevilla, and what's the one? Alhambra, which is in what city is that? They're all in the south.
All in the south, but all famous.
Yeah,
they all
and
have their Sevilla oranges. There's so much good food there. There's so much that comes. Marcona almonds. We didn't even touch on those today. Those are Spanish.
We've had Marcona almonds on every single plate
we
we've
couldn't
ever
do
done.
it again. I don't know more Marcona almonds, but I'll just have a few more.
But you've
they're
got,
so good.
of course, Picasso and Miro and Salvador Dali. Just so much great art and culture and food.
So good.
So we'll have to put together our Spanish cheese trip.
Yeah, It's in the works. It's definitely in the works. So awesome, Rob. Well, we're gonna have to say thank you to everyone. I forget which varietal's up next. Talk and I will look because I can't remember which one it is.
Did we already do champagne?
We did.
We did
that
champagne.
Was last time.
What else is coming up for Sunday? We're doing.
Gosh.
I believe we're doing our pop-up dinner.
Oh yes, a pop-up dinner with the divas. So if you are Del Mar customers, Carol is being one. The Del Martians, we used to call them, are now the Del Mar divas, all the gals. So they're really awesome there. And they used to host the dinners at the shop, and they can't do that now. So we're doing virtual pop-up dinners. Well, we'll give you the whole kit. So she's going to be doing a pop-up dinner that's really going to focus. It's going to be 3 courses. You get everything that you want to make your dinner and kind of sit back. And of course, they're cheese-centric. So that is really good. And I don't know how I could forget this. Our next Wino Wednesday, November 4th, the day after the election. Oh. So our theme is All-American.
Oh.
We're going All-American the day after. It's going to be an interesting Wino Wednesday. Regardless.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. And so that is our next Wino. All-American.
All-American and
and a Baxter at a Pinot Noir. And this Pinot Noir, you guys, whoa, it's delicious, I got to tell you. And some of our favorite American cheeses, which are, there's too many to name, but there's some really good ones that are going to be on that one. So
we usually pick stuff that we haven't had before. We're
trying. We want to get everything different for everybody and have some new things to introduce you to. So that's what's upcoming. We really appreciate, as always, from me and Rob. And you all enjoy the rest of this. I know I will. And Rob will enjoy the rest of this. And we hope to see you again. Thank you for coming. Ciao. No, what are you saying?
Adios.
Adios.
Adios, amigos.
Of course. Adios, amigos, amigas. Take care. See you again. Ciao. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.